Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today I have a special guest. You all know him. He coached W Connection, he coached our national team, and he's done a lot of work here in Trinidad and Tobago as far as football is concerned. But I hold off and let me introduce my co-host first. Narada Wilson, welcome to the set.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Steve. And I think we have an exciting program for most of our viewers and for me particularly as well. So a pleasure again.
Okay, and the ever popular, none other than Stuart Charles. Welcome to the set, Stuart.
Yes, welcome. I just want to greet everyone watching this program at this time, and to say good evening. And I'm very happy to be here.
And we're glad to have you, buddy. I want my guests to know who Stuart Charles is. And everybody know you here, and you're like a local. You're one of us now. You've been living here so long. So I want everybody to know who you are and where you started and everything else. So I would ask you the question, tell us where were you born and give us a little background on you.
Yeah, well, I was born in Curacao from St. Lucian parentage. My parents went to St. Lucia when I was about maybe 2 years old, So I really don't know anything about Curacao, except that I was born there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always considered myself St. Lucian, because all my brothers, my parents are St. Lucians, And from a very early age, I grew up right by the main footballing ground in Castries, the capital. And from a very young age, always going to the field, I developed a passion for football, And from very early, all I ever wanted to do was play football. I always wanted to be a professional footballer, and always knew when I finished playing football, I want to coach. I knew that from a very young age, and I pursued that throughout my football career. In terms of the playing part, from very young as well, I got a lot of success as a player because I made the St. Lucian national senior team at 15 years old, and I was nominated Footballer of the Year as well at 15 years old in St. Lucia, So I was a big talent, really, because all I ever did was play football morning, noon, and night, And I always had a dream to make it in football, And my mom never really was too interested in me playing football, and sometimes, she more wanted me to concentrate on my studies and stuff like that, and sometimes it was tough,
Well, as you said, studies. You came through the school program in
No, well, in St. Lucia, I played for St. Mary's College, but the school participated in the first division.
Right.
Not
the Premier.
Not school football, really.
Or they played like
because
football.
in that time you didn't have many secondary schools.
Okay, I got you.
Mm-hmm. So they played in the first division, and it was an advantage for me because I was playing senior football at a young age because I made the school team at 13 years old.
Right.
I was playing for the school in Form 2. I was already playing for the school, and because of that, it fast-tracked me, and that's why I was able to make the national team at such a young age, And one or two Trinidad teams came to St. Lucia when I was still young. I remember Defense Force in 1972 came to St. Lucia, and they defeated everybody quite easily, including the national team. And I still remember some of the players that were there. Ron Lafferty was a young player.
Mm-hmm.
Milton Archibald,
Mm-hmm.
Franklin Yewood, Philbert Prince, Spooner, Winston B. Phillip,
Right.
I remember all these guys, I used to be going since I live near the ground, I used to go, they used to train 6 o'clock on mornings. And I always used to go there before I go to school, you know, and run down the ball behind the goal for them.
Right, right.
Yeah, I remember that, you know. And then Fulham came when I was about 19 years old. Fulham made a tour to St. Lucia, Fulham from Arima. And after the game, they played against the under 19 team. And after the game, the coach came to me. I played for the under 19 on that day. And after the game, the coach, Earl John, deceased Earl John, came to me and told me, you know, I had too much talent to stay in St. Lucia, and if I didn't want to come to Trinidad to play football. And I always tell people, you know, when he said that to me, you know, for me it was like going Brazil.
Right.
You know, because Trinidad top club teams used to beat our national team in those days.
Right.
And I used to hear Trinidad bringing on the professionals to play World Cup qualifying and stuff like that. So going to Trinidad was a big thing for me at that time, you know. And my parents, my mom especially, did not really want me to come because she said I was too young and I didn't have no family in Trinidad, you know. But, and I have it's 8 boys, 7 of us, 8 boys, you know. And the family had a meeting, and the way I cried, they could not let me go.
Right, right.
You know, because everybody was swimming in tears. You know, I was crying so much because my mom didn't want me to go, but I wanted to go because I saw it as my opportunity, because all I ever wanted to do was play football.
Right.
You know, and I came to Trinidad, you know, and I stayed with Earl John, you know. My mother, he had to write a letter to my mom saying he would take full responsibility for me and all that, you know, because she said she would not let me go without that. And I played for Fulham, you know. I enjoyed my time at Fulham. I had some good years at Fulham. I had some good players too in that time.
You say Fulham, I'm thinking
Fulham
in England, right?
No, Fulham from Arima.
Fulham. Right.
Fulham from Arima, because they toured St. Lucia and the under 19 played against them, and after the game, Earl John was the coach at the time. He wanted to take me to Trinidad with Fulham, you know.
Right.
And that's how I came to Trinidad, and I was playing with Fulham at the time. And I came in October 77. So I played out November, December. And in January 78, they gave me captain of the team, you know.
Right.
They gave me captain of the team after 2-3 months playing with them. And then I got footballer of the year in Arima in 1978.
Okay, don't go there yet. Let me take you back a little bit. In St. Lucia, you played. You guys had any first division football?
Yeah, I played first division there.
Okay, so tell me about that. I want to know a little bit about you in St. Lucia.
Well, when I left school, after I left St. Mary's College in St. Lucia, you know, I moved to my area team, Leslieland Football Club, you know, and we were a bunch of young guys, you know, from the same area. And they gave me captain and coach, although I was the youngest on the team because I was a national player.
So you were born to be a coach then?
Yeah, I coaching since around 15, 16 years.
All right.
Coaching, but at that time, I was always a dedicated and committed football person.
Right.
You know, and being on the national team so young, I used to train a lot on my own and stuff like that. And they felt, because of my dedication, commitment, and
experience also
playing for the national team now, they made me the leader, you know, and told me, well, I'll have to be the captain and the coach of the team, you know. And I remember I used to be going in the library and look for football books and stuff like that, you know. And I still had my game to say about, you know. But I enjoyed it because that's all I ever wanted to do, play football, you know.
Right.
And we ended up winning the first division.
Right.
And just after we won the first division, I got the opportunity to come to Trinidad. Yeah.
And you came to Trinidad and you never left after that, man. You met people like Narada. All right. What was it like, Narada, what was it like meeting Stuart for the first time?
Okay. Well, I think my interaction with him would have been years ago, you know, when he was the head coach of the senior team when I joined W Connection, and I would have been when they now started their junior team program.
Right.
So I guess, you know, it's more or less the figure that is larger in life, because you're seeing a senior team that had a lot of success. And this is the guy who's given them or taking them to have this success. We always knew that he was a regional coach, you know, coming from St. Lucia. And then in my digging up, you found out that he had an illustrious playing career in Trinidad. Very quiet individual from ever since, not much of a talker. But I guess the damage was done on the field, you know, and, you know, hearing that from since a very young age, he was very enthusiastic about football. That is something that I think you see the fruits in the end, knowing that it was somebody that was so experienced and so well knowledgeable about football from a very young age.
So Stuart, now you here in Trinidad, and you came and you had a playing career here, yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's talk about your playing career in Trinidad. Yes.
Yeah, well, when I was playing with Fulham, you know, that time they were playing in the East Zone. Then we were able to get promoted. We were in the 3rd division. Then we won the East Zone. Then played champion of champion, and got promoted to the 2nd division. You know.
What zone was that? Like league? Like,
you see, you had the National League.
Oh, yeah,
you had 2nd division, and then you had the zonal competition that was like a 3rd division.
It's like South Zone,
East Zone.
Yeah.
But the champions used to meet and play a champion to see who would get promoted to the 2nd division. So we got promoted, and but during that time, I remember walking a day, and I saw Selby Brown.
Right.
But Selby had spent about 2 years working in St. Lucia, and he also played. And he knew me as a youngster playing in St. Lucia. And when he saw me, he asked me what I do in here, and I tell him, well, I'm here now.
Right.
I'm playing at Fulham, and he invited me and asked me for like a trial with Pro Pioneers, you know, because he was the manager at the time. And I tell him, sure. And I went, and this is Jap Brown. He was the coach, you know. And after the first session I did, he tell Selby, you'll keep me with Pro Pioneers, you know. So it was a step up, because Pro Pioneers had national players, Nanbigo national players, and those that were not national players were also quality players. They were participating in the 1st division in the National Football League, you know. Pro Pioneers was a team that toured regionally and played national teams. And we got some form of remuneration for playing, you know. So at that time, I was getting about $100 US a game. At that time, that was huge for me.
That was big money.
For me as a youngster, it was huge, you know. But more than that, I began to learn the game tactically better, you know, with Jap Brown being the coach. You know, he was a teacher at I think Southeast Port of Spain secondary, you know, and he was also a very good coach in terms of very methodical in his approach to coaching, you know. And I learned a lot from him, because he really taught us the game, really, you know. With Jap, you knew your next play. You know, when you have the ball, you know the next play, you know. And we did, Pro Pioneers was a good team, very, very, very good team. We did very well. And from there, we moved to Phoenix Professionals. I think where you came, and Gali and 1 or 2 other top players, Sami, came, you all playing professional overseas, and came and joined the team after the all season. And then we made some trips, you know, and had some very good games. And for me, it was a learning experience. Playing it to you all, I remember that well, you know, because when I watch you all, you know, the level was high.
Right.
And it motivated me, just being among the group as the youngest player and playing with the caliber of these players was huge for me.
Right.
You know, and players like Gali, yourself, Ron, Sammy, Span, Sellers, John Stedman, Tony Douglas, you know, Guns. That's what I call it.
Those are...
you know, and to me, and being the youngest and being able to start in the team, you know, for me that was huge.
Right.
And
you know?
You're calling all these players, but I'm still not localizing where on the field was Stuart Charles playing.
Well, I played Sellers. Well, I came here as a midfielder, really.
But you playing with
I was a goal-scoring midfielder from a young side in St. Lucia.
Right.
You know, because my concept of midfield up to now as a coach, I always believe a midfielder must be complete. He must be a complete player. He must be able to attack, defend, score goals, set up goals.
Right.
Now they say this one is a defensive midfielder and this one is an attacking midfielder, you know, but I always like midfielders at all purpose, you know. And I was playing midfield, and a day when I came with Pro Pioneers, playing midfield, and a day the stopper that plays with Sellers and Wayne used to play stopper. And Wayne didn't come training that day, and we were playing a training game against Huey. And Jap told me, he says, Stuart, today you'll have to hold the stopper position with Sellers because I ain't see Wayne, you know. And I tell him, no problem, coach. And after the training game, he told me, Stuart, you see you used to stay riding. That's how I ended up playing, playing stopper. But I never really played stopper like a stopper, you know. The midfielder never left me. So I played stopper like a midfielder, you know.
Right.
So I could have bring out the ball and come in midfield and, you know, and play, you know. And I used to score goals too as a stopper because I always used to score goals in football when I played. And to me, scoring a goal is the biggest thrill in the game.
It is.
And that never left me, you know. You know, that never left me at all.
Right. But there was a guy from Jamaica as well. Do you remember what his name was on that Pro Pioneer team?
Yeah, they had two Jamaicans. One name was Cunningham, and I think the other one name was Toby. I'm trying to remember, but one name was Cunningham for sure.
Right.
One name was Cunningham for sure.
I'm thinking
Cunningham played wing back. Cunningham played wing back. And the other guy named, slipping me now, but I believe it's something like Toby was his name. I'm not too sure, you know.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, so we can think about it and remember, brainstorm, all right? And when we come back, we'll pick it up where we left off. Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
Looking for a safe place for the whole family? Well, now you've found it. We are ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station. Whether it's current affairs, kids and classic TV, sport and community features, Christian and music programming, plus so much more, ACTN is the station for you. Join us each day for programming that puts morals, values and family first. We are ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy.
Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. We're here talking with Stuart Charles, and I know you guys enjoying this session. And Stuart, I like your shirt, but pretty nice. I like that.
Yeah, well.
All right. Anyhow, let's pick up where we left off. You with the Pro Pioneers team. Did you play for any other team other than that in Trinidad?
Yeah. Well, I am from Pro Pioneers, from Fulham. I was still playing for Fulham while playing with Pro Pioneers, and also while playing with Phoenix Professionals as well. You know, But I must say with Phoenix Professionals, it was huge for me personally. It was huge, you know. I learned a lot being among you all, you know. As the youngest player, I always felt sheltered, you know. Gali was player coach at the time.
Right.
Sellers for me was the best stopper I ever played with. I learned a lot from him, playing with him, you know. He was a tower of strength.
He was.
Yeah, you know. Leroy Span, Samuel Welling, Ron Lafferty, you know, top players that could go anywhere in the world and play. You know, and that has always been my impression of Trinidad and Tobago football. And I've never really lose faith in Trinidad and Tobago football because I always tell the players I work with, you know, Trinidad and Tobago football for me had world-class players. For me, you know, I tell you, I played with them, I know. And they have to defend a proud legacy, you know.
Right.
You understand? And I always try to encourage them. You know, to give their best, you know, always. You know, but moving back to the playing part, from Phoenix Professionals, ASL was now coming out. It was the first full local professional team. Aviation Services Limited, you know, the company. And I remember Mutong, I don't know Mutong's real name, I knew him as Mutong, was a football man.
Was that Phoenix?
He was the owner of ECM.
Okay, ECM.
He was the owner of the ECM,
yeah,
you know.
Yes.
Atta Sweet was the president of ASL, you know. And he and Mutong knew each other well, and he gave him the responsibility of trying to recruit players for this professional team he wanted to start. And Ron was one of the first players, or probably the first player Mutong recruited. And Ron told Mutong about me, because playing with me with Phoenix Professionals,
right.
Ron told, and I got recruited, you know, and went on to play for ASL. Started in 1980, went on to play ASL until 1985, 5 years, you know. Was a top team, top team, you know. And we had two foreign coaches. One was a Brazilian, the first one. He spent about 2 to 3 years, or 2.5 years. And the other one was a Dutchman. In fact, the Dutchman coached Holland in the 1978 World Cup in the qualifying rounds of the World Cup. And after the team qualified, Ernest Happel took the team to the World Cup. Zratkruf was his name, you know. So working under these foreign coaches, you know, they were able to improve my professionalism as a player, you know, because they came from more football in developed countries. They were very professional, and they instilled that into us, you know, a higher level of professionalism, you know.
Is it that time when you start thinking about making that transition from player to coach?
Yes, yes,
tell me about that.
It's from that time, because what I used to do while playing for ASL, we used to train at Woodbrook Youth Center in Port of Spain. While playing for ASL, anytime a coaching course came to Trinidad, I would go and ask Mr. Jack Warner. I don't know if you could remember that. He was the secretary at the time of the association. Right. And I would go and ask him if he could allow me to do the course as an observer. I tell him I don't want for no certificate. I just want to observe, you know, because I'm still playing, but I was thinking of preparing myself for when I finish play, you know. But what I realized as well, going and do those courses, it made me a better player. Because on those courses, on coaching courses, you tend to go deeper into the game, you know. And then I started to realize that I was developing tactically better going on those courses, you know. But it also helped me prepare myself for when I finished playing. Because I always wanted to coach. you know. So I did quite a few courses, about 4 or 5 courses, you know, as an observer. Courses coming to Trinidad, you know, and Mr. Warner allowing me to do it as an observer, you know. And it really prepared me, really, for going into coaching. But more than that, in 1986, after I'd won everything with ASL, you know, the 5 years we won the championship almost every year in the competitions we played in, you know. I wanted a new challenge, and Richard Braffett was manager of Trinidad, and I was always checking me for at least 2-3 years, asking me to come to Trinidad and stuff like that. And about in the third year to fourth year, I told him I would come, you know, because I wanted a new challenge. And I told him I would come because he always contacted me every year. And playing for Trinidad, we won the National League. That was the first National League title at the first division level, and also the FA Cup. And that year, the Minister of Sports in St. Lucia came to Trinidad to look for me. And he told me that he came to look for me because everybody in St. Lucia tell him I alone could help St. Lucia football, because he took over as Minister of Sports and he wanted to do something for football. And so when he came, I was around 26 years at the time, you know. I told him I still wanted to play because I was still young, and come back in 2 years' time because I still wanted to play. And I really thought he would not come back. I was surprised he came back. So 2 years later, he really did come back. And he told me, well, I told him to come back in 2 years, so you have come back, you know. And since I gave him my word, you know, I decided to go back. So I really ended my career at 28 years old, at the peak of my maturity, really.
But that's when we used to end it back in the day, 28, 30.
Yeah.
We stopped playing.
Yeah.
Now it goes into
and
the 30s.
Then going back to St. Lucia, I went on quite a few courses. I spent 6 months in Brazil. I did basic and advanced courses there. I spent 4 months in Hungary at the University of Physical Education, Postgraduate Institute. I did an international diploma in football coaching there. It was done in English. I did my license in England. I did preliminary and my license course in England, and I have an English FA license. I'm the holder of an English FA license. And then I did all the FIFA courses that came to the Caribbean, and Olympic solidarity courses and stuff like that, you know. So I really went and educated myself as a coach, because when I came back to St. Lucia, I told them I don't want just to coach on my playing days. I wanted to educate myself about coaching a little more, because the courses I did as an observer in Trinidad and Tobago made me realize that coaching is something you have to study and go to school for before you really get serious into it, you know, so to speak, you know. And it has benefited me tremendously. You know?
And I'm glad you're saying that, because a lot of people think you just quit playing football and you go coach, and don't know how much you have put into
it,
to get, you know, your
I always, like I said, I used to coach from a young age, you know, but when you working at the highest level, because when I went back to St. Lucia, they wanted me to coach the national team, obviously, you know. And in 5 years of work, I took them to the third place in the Caribbean, behind Jamaica and Trinidad. In fact, we even defeated Trinidad in that Caribbean championship in Jamaica that year.
So that is major progress from a club
you know,
to be now a national team.
But even before that, I remember the Strike squad on their way to Honduras played a warm-up match against us in St. Lucia, and we drew.
Right.
We drew that game. We drew that game 1-1, you know. And I remember playing against Mexico under 23 team. and I used the senior team, B team, and we defeated them 1-0. You know, and I never forget that the coach gave me a plaque, and he told me he never thought he would have come in this part of the world and see that level of football. You know, so and all that is not just my playing experience, but the coach education. You know.
So how long you stayed in St. Lucia, being a coach there, and what was the transition back to make the transition back to Trinidad?
Yeah, well, I went back to St. Lucia in 1987, and I coached the national team for at least 5 years, you know, and then I gave it up, and then I was doing more work with coaches around the country, because at that time I worked with the government, with the ministry,
right.
You know, at that time, you know. And one day, David John Williams called me on my phone, you know, and told me they were starting a professional league in Trinidad, and he wanted me to coach Double Connection if I would be interested, you know.
How did you guys became friends? Norada set that up or what?
No.
Did that happen?
Well, what happened?
Yeah.
I remember Double Connection was always a fet match team,
Right.
but in the younger days, they used to travel.
Yeah.
You know, they used to
Right.
travel the Caribbean islands in the younger days. And yeah, they came to St. Lucia, and I was coaching the Olympic team at the time. Earl Jean was part of that team, you know, and we defeated them 7-0. But, you know, I just met them casually and didn't worry about it, you know. But the day he called me, you know, I told him, well, I have 2 young children, and you know, I don't think I could leave at this point in time to come, you know. But he never took no for an answer. He called me for 2 weeks straight, every day, you know. So a day I told my wife, you know, I think he wants to speak to me face to face. He don't want to speak to me on the phone, you know. So a day I told my wife, well, I better go and hear what he have to say, you know. And if she wants, she could come along with me. It's not a problem, you know, to hear herself what he want to tell me. And we came, and, you know, and I was very impressed with what he wanted to do, with the project he wanted to do and stuff like that, and his passion. And I really always wanted to come and give something back to Trinidad and Tobago football too, you know. But at the time I was thinking I just got married and stuff like that, you know. But after hearing him, you know, and what he wanted to do, and it would give me the opportunity to come back, to give something back to Trinidad football and coach professional players as well. Because as a football person, you know, it's something I wanted to do. Not only coach professionally, because I was already coaching professionally, but I was coaching amateurs.
Yeah.
And this was giving me an opportunity to coach professional, you know. And my wife told me, well, she would make a sacrifice for 3 years, but after that, either I come back or she come up. You know, so after the 3 years.
Oh, so your wife was there in St. Lucia?
My wife was in St. Lucia, and I was here for 3 years. You know, she was. They used to come up every holidays, every Easter, every August, and every
Christmas
December. You know, they used to come up. You know, and after 3 years, I told her, well, she and the children will have to come up because they would like me to stay. You know, and then they came up. Yeah, and well, the children went to school here, everything. Now they went to university in the States, and in Canada now, both of them, a girl and a boy.
Right.
And my wife's here with me still, you know. And well, you know the story of Double Connection, you know. Some real, it's almost 20 years now.
Well, I know the duration, but I don't know the story. I know you started. Tell me about. Let's talk about W Connection and the
well, you know, a lot of people. Well, David and I obviously you know, have a good relationship, you know. He's, for me, he's the best football administrator I've ever worked with.
Right.
For me, you know, the experience I've had with him, I've never worked with a better football administrator than David, you know. He's very passionate, and he's always forward thinking, you know, and he's success driven, you know, in his mentality, you know, and I'm similar.
Well, yeah, it
So
looks like you guys are parallel in how you think
similar.
and what you do,
so
and you go in the same direction.
We have a very good relationship. For me, we like family, really, you know. We had our challenges from early, you know. A lot of people realize that we have gotten a lot of success, but we have also gotten a lot of pain, because football is pain and joy.
Mm-hmm.
We have gotten a lot of joy, but a lot of pain too. You know, there are sometimes we cry ourselves to sleep over the phone, losing critical games and losing critical competitions, critical trophies.
Right.
You know, and people don't know that. People only see the success, and sometimes people form their own opinions and stuff like that, you know. But we have won the national championship, the Pro League championship 6 times. But we have maybe become second place about 8 to 10 times. You see?
You could have won 16 times. You
Exactly.
add it all up.
And sometimes it's by goal average, by 1 point. You understand what I mean?
And you think about the games you give away.
Exactly.
Stupid goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you find in the 20 years of the professional league, we have been, I don't know exactly, but I know we have been between first and second
More than half.
more than half of the years.
Yeah.
More than half of the years for sure.
Right.
More than half of the years. Yeah. So it shows that we have been very consistent in terms of our results and as a club, because from the onset, David always had a vision for W Connection. He wanted the players to dress as a professional team, and he wanted me and the other members of staff as well to dress.
Yeah, blazers.
With blazers and stuff like that. And I've maintained it up to today, because people are always saying, we go beat this jacket out of all, you know. When we just started, they say they just gallery thing, and after 2 years, they don't need that, but you know what?
Well,
we still...
let me let you take a break. Let's take a break, and then you come back and tell me about that green jacket that changing color now when you get back, and a little bit of Murad and all that.
Yeah, no, okay.
Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
Looking for a safe place for the whole family? Well, now you found it. We are ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station. Whether it's current affairs, kids and classic TV, sport and community features, Christian and music programming, plus so much more, ACTN is the station for you. Join us each day for programming that puts morals, values and family first. We are ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
But my first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we've played together, I've always been the decoy.
Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host. Okay, welcome back, viewers. Stuarty, before the break, we were talking about that green jacket that started becoming discolored now. You guys need to get a new jacket. Tell me all about that and about coaching people like Narada and all the other things.
Well, I want to cut in before, because I want the image of W Connection to be there for persons. And I don't know if this is what may have convinced you. There's a double-decker bus. There's a team that is wearing shirt and pants, dress shirt and pants, dress shoes and a tie. The coach is now wearing blazers. These are some of the things that for me, joining in the academy was, you know, it was a change in our dynamics of football. We had new stadia in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So the Savanetta boys were playing most of their home games at the Mani Ramjan at that point, and then until it went to the Couva Stadium. So all of this could have been part of the package that convinced you and your wife to stay in Trinidad and for you to accept the job at the time, because you were seeing where we were now getting closer to professionalizing football as it was outside.
Yeah, when I wouldn't say it's because of those things really, because when I came, we were still recruiting players.
Correct.
For the club, you know. Club was now started. Yeah. You know, and after the 3 years, you know, we were doing well, and they wanted me to stay on, and I thought, you know, staying on would have been good, because at the time we were progressing as well, you know, as a professional team, you know. And we had Brazilians, Colombians over the years, you know, we had a lot of good foreign-based players. And why we end up with these foreign-based players was the fact that when the club started, the majority of the good local players were already taken.
Correct.
And to be able to compete against the top teams in the country, like Defence Force, Joe Public, Jablote, we had to go and scout outside for players, because we would not have gotten the quality to compete against those teams locally at the time, you know. But we always knew that as the years go by, we would end up with more local players, because we were starting our youth programs.
Right, correct.
And we know 5 years down the road, our youth would be coming in.
So you're saying that the double connection, having foreign-based players all the time, is not necessarily that is part of the DNA of the club. It's actually due to a necessity at the time it started that way.
It started that way. Right. It started, that's why at the beginning we had so many foreign-based players. Because like I say, we were always very ambitious, you know. We want to be able to compete at the highest level, you know, and the top players in the country were already taken, you see. And we because of the style of football I like, you know, because of my philosophy, so to speak, because I've always admired Brazilian football from a boy, you know. It has always been the philosophy of play I like, because for me, football is pleasure, you know, and I as a youngster, I saw that in Brazilian football, you know. And I spoke to David and I told him, if we have to get players, I would like to go to Brazil, you know, to get players because of my philosophy, you know. And we went to Brazil. We brought, they were simple players we saw linemen by the road and stuff like that. We organized trials in a little community in Brazil, and we got about 100 players, you know, players who were cutting cane, you know, and you know, and we brought them, but they were very talented. You could not believe that these players is cane cutting. Yeah. When you watch them play football, you know, but the population, the football population, so big in Brazil that they cannot get a club, you know. And they came here, and to me, they added a lot of value to the league, because in those years the league was very competitive, you know. And if you watch Trinidad and Tobago football, you would see during the time these players were here, you know, it was the era where Trinidad qualified for the World Cup. You see, because the local league, the local competitive. Yeah, because to have a good national team, you need a good local league to have a good national team. You see, and then now a lot of players like Dennis Lawrence, Carlos Edwards, these players were able, because of the league, the professional league, they were able to get into the English market, and a lot of them progress to the Premier League. Now is not the case. Our players going out, but it's difficult for one of them to really get into a Premiership team at the moment.
Yeah.
You see? So it shows you the quality of the league in that time compared to now.
Right. So the league prepares you.
Yeah, the league, because to have a good national team,
yeah,
you need a good league. Because national team don't prepare players for national team. It's the clubs that prepare the players for the national team. So if the league not good, it will be difficult for the national team. You see, because the national team don't have time.
Yeah.
They come together for a week and play. The coach don't have time to really prepare players to be good players in a week. So
you have to come with your game.
Yeah, it's the clubs. You see, so that is why the league's so important. You know, that is why the league's so important.
In the league and your career in the league, what would you say was one of the strongest times of the local league, a particular year? Not trying to say that you would have preference in all your titles, but what do you think would have been a year that you did your best work, or the team did their best work?
The best year was 2005. You know, 2005. That is we won the league by 15 clear points. You know,
who were the players then?
The Brazilians were still here.
Okay.
And right the year before World Cup. So
Carrington.
You guys stole Carrington from me, you know that, right?
Well, it's normal.
Don't say nothing because David might be watching.
No, it's normal because NASL stole you from point. It's football. It's normal.
I'm talking about in the middle of the season. Eh? We go into this season semi-pro league.
Yes, it would have been
semi. They come and take 3 of my players, my top players. Next thing I know, they're wearing green jackets with Derby Connect.
No, but for you to understand, Steve.
In the middle of the season.
That was Stuart's best year.
No, Steve. No, let me explain to you.
That is in 1997 or whatever.
And no, obviously, maybe for you it would not be good, right? But for Carrington and for us, it was good. Now, football is a game. To me, the way I see football, personally, because it does happen to Double Connection. If you notice, we lose players at any point in time in the season, and I don't bother about it because football is about progress.
Right.
You know, and you cannot play football all the days of your life. It's for a time.
Right.
You know, so once the opportunity comes for the player, I just tell the club, let him go. We could have a final tomorrow. If he had to go today, I would not let them keep him back to play the final.
Right.
Because I don't want him to lose his opportunity.
Right.
You see? That's how I think, because I was a footballer too. You see? So I never make a problem if a player move on. Once he go into better, if he moving on to go lower, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. But once he going a step up, I don't have a problem with it, you know? And Carrington, incidentally for me, is the best captain I ever had in my coaching career.
Right.
Reynold Carrington is a fantastic human being, as far as I'm concerned.
Bring guys together, he's knowledgeable,
Reynold
you can speak to them.
In fact, up to now, I just tell him, I don't feel comfortable playing against him.
Right.
You know, I don't like to compete against him.
Well, he's
you know, he's a relationship.
Well, he's so believing you that we're trying to get him to play a different formation, and he plays yours all the time. I'm like,
well, he got success with it.
I know.
He got success with it. So
success.
He know it, you know.
Yes.
He know it, and he got success with it. But he's a good coach, eh?
Yes.
Reynolds is one of the better local coaches we have. You know, if I had my way, he's a coach I would encourage to be working at national level. Right?
And you're right, you are. But all you have to teach him is to win the big games. That is the only thing I think. The coaches that make the separation is the one that win the games that they have to win.
Yeah.
And sometimes he does not win these big games. Right. The ones that you have to win. Like when we were in that final in Arthur Bolden a few years ago, and then there's times we playing games maybe against W Connection. We say we need that one or we need this one.
Right. The big games. The big games. The big games. But it's not easy to win.
You do it?
Because
how do you do it? You need to teach him to do that. That's what I'm saying.
That's the secret. He didn't pass on that one. He has to keep his edge.
You have to understand. You have to watch the two programs.
Yeah.
You see, it's about the program, it's about the environment, it's a lot of things, you know.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Because I'm somebody. Like when I came to work here, the first thing I told my players, I don't believe in once a day training. I told them when I was an amateur, I trained twice a day.
Right.
So I'm not coaching no professional once a day.
Right.
You understand? And they had to work twice a day. You know, and I don't take flimsy excuses when you miss training. If I have to play you on the weekend, you was a starter in the team, you miss a session in the week, I might not start you. It has to be a very good reason.
Right.
You know, I might not play you. In fact, I coached W Connection on the 20th year. And I told them, we had 4 sessions and game. I told them, anybody that missed a session cannot start. You know, you have to train. You cannot want to play football and don't train, especially at a professional level. You know, especially at a professional level, because I still find modern players still don't take training as serious as they should. You know?
Yes.
They don't, you know, so you find it's a habit. So it comes into the psyche, you know, and you get mediocrity, you know.
Before you get out of here, I want you to talk a little bit about your national stint that you had with Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it had a year, I think it was 2003. David came to me and told me that Mr. Warner called him and asked for me to coach the national team for about 3 years, you know, so he wanted me. And he saw my resume, you know, and was impressed with it. And I remember, so I told David, you know, it would be difficult for me to say no, you know, because I told him I feel it would be disrespectful that if Mr. Warner feel I could make a contribution at the national team level to say no, you know. So I tell him it's up to him, you know. Once he will give me the opportunity, I'll accept, you know. So so he tell me no problem, you know. He will support it. And we went to a meeting with Mr. Warner, 4 a.m. a morning in Port of Spain, you know. And we negotiated, and everything was okay, you know. But it's just my personal feeling, you know, and I knew about it later because a friend of mine told me about it, you know. I believe being from a small island, being from St. Lucia, you know, a lot of people around the football were not happy with a St. Lucian coaching Trinidad senior team.
You think so?
I think so, because they felt I was from a small island, and how could you have a small island man coaching Trinidad and that kind of thing, you know. But you know, I got to find out because, like I tell you, somebody close to me around the football let me know that. And I felt hurt about it because I felt I'd played all my football here. I played 10 years as a professional here.
Right.
I was a top player in my generation playing here.
Right.
You know, and I was qualified as a coach. You know, I had a good background as a coach. I was the most successful coach locally at the time. You know, and I realized that why would they want to deprive me an opportunity because of where I was born?
So you felt it was unfair, it wasn't fairly treated?
Yeah, no, well, but not by Mr. Warner.
I understand that.
To be fair to Mr. Warner. Mr. Warner
these
gave
public
me,
views, right?
But you know, I guess maybe people pressuring him and stuff like that, I don't know. You know, and Mr. Warner treated me properly. You know,
how did you do as a coach?
Well, I did well. I did well in the short stint I was there. I felt, you know, I did well in the short stint I was there. And but I never let it bother me. I never held anyone on my chest or let it bother me, you know, because I understand, you know, sometimes people might feel, well, someone from the islands cannot do nothing.
Okay, question to you that my viewers want me to ask you. If you get an opportunity again, would you go back and coach the national team?
No, well, I working with the national team right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm assisting Dennis Lawrence because, like I say, I never held anyone on my chest.
Okay.
You know, to say I bitter with anybody or anything like that. You know, I just, you know, when life is like that. You know, sometimes some people, you know, not for you, some people for you, but also, you know, some people may have their opinions, you know, and I just see it as that, you know, because I don't think anybody hate me personally, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
I don't believe anybody hate me personally as a human being.
Okay.
I don't believe they hate me as a human being. You see, I just feel where the football is concerned, they feel better, you know, not having someone from a small island. You know,
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Well, we did all we talk out our time.
Yeah.
So I think we need to shut it down now. But I want to thank you for being here. Sounds like though we can talk for another 2 shows, and I would have to bring you back sometime so you can give us some more insight on Stuart Charles.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate so much that you've been here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
For me,
Bernarda, thank you as well for being here. But
pleasure. And,
appreciate
you know, I just wish Stuart all the best as the assistant with the national senior team and continued success with the under-15s, I believe. You all had a lot of success recently. Just keep doing a good job there.
Yeah, and that's right. Good luck with W Connection as well. And ACTN, thank you for giving us the opportunity. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook, or you can drop us a line on fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. The show comes on every Monday night at 8 o'clock, and we repeat at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. The show is ended. Go in peace. My name is Steve David. Good night.